36 hours. I've been running for 36 hours at this point. The race was the Ultra Trail du Mont Blanc. It's a 166-kilometer race with lots of uphill, something like more than 9,000 height meters. So it's a big run around and up and down mountains. So 36 hours in. And I'll be honest with you, at this point, I'm starting to feel tired. I've been feeling tired for a while, but at 36 hours, I'm really feeling tired. And I've had 2 nights out from running. So 2 nights out I was running, and finally the sun had come up on that second day, and I was nearing the town where we finished, the town of Chamonix. And things are starting to get exciting now. I'm finally coming down off of the mountains, and I'm into the forest. And as I run into the forest, suddenly I stop, because I see something on the forest floor. And it's startling. What I see is thousands of sausages. And I'm really puzzled at this, because the entire forest floor and the whole trail where I need to run is covered with sausages. And this bothers me because, let's face it, running on sausages is just weird. It's kind of disgusting. And I'm looking down at the sausages, and I have this one question in my mind, and I really need to understand this. It's, where did they come from? And how did they get here? So I start trying to figure this out. Okay, there's thousands of sausages. Where did they come from? I'm looking up and I'm thinking, I got it. I figured this out. You see, there must have been a shipment of sausages. There must have been some urgent need to get sausages from the sausage factory somewhere to some other place, and they were flying them in this massive cargo plane. And I'm seeing this whole scenario in my mind that suddenly one strap breaks that's holding the sausages down, and the other straps break, and then the back of the plane opens, and then all the sausages fall out. And then they fall onto the path where we are. That's the only way. That's the only way they could get here. So as I'm tiptoeing through this minefield of sausages, I'm kind of happy. I think I figured it out, but something's still not quite right in my mind. Really, where they realize it's got to be expensive to transport sausages by air. This doesn't really make sense. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it didn't happen by an airplane dropping them. I think the way it happened is people must have been transporting them with rucksacks, like giant rucksacks that you would have paragliders in. It must have been a big group of people. They're moving through the area with the rucksacks, all the sausages, and then the straps broke and the sausages fell out. I'm thinking, is this really so? I picked my way through the sausages, and it still does not make any sense. So now I decide I need to do a test. I need to touch one of the sausages and see if it's cold or hot. Because were they being cooked or were they frozen? I need to understand this. So I bend down and I start to touch the sausage. And then I realize it's a pine cone. And it's just pine cones that are on the forest floor. But my mind has been so convinced that they were sausages, and the mind had to unravel the whole story. How did they get here? And it's several different levels of reality and trying to figure it out until I finally touched the thing and my mind went, aha, it's just pine cones, it's not sausages. That was kind of the concluding hallucination of an entire night full of hallucinations, that second night out of running, where I thought I saw stranded hikers, I thought I saw vehicles on the sides of mountains, lots of crazy hallucinations that night. And the sausage one, that was kind of my gift, the final hallucination, before I was able to get down into the town and finish that race. So hallucinations can be really cool, wacky things that happen when you're doing ultra endurance events, when you're doing anything that involves sleep deprivation. I call it a free drug, and it's kind of, as long as you're safe when it happens, it's a fun thing that happens to you. You just have to go with it and smile at it later and not get too carried away with it. So that's hallucinations. And in a way, a hallucination is a mind game. But there's also something called visualizations. And the difference between a hallucination and a visualization is the hallucination is something that happens to us. It's that wacky thing. We see horses that are flying. We see pirate ships was another one. For an hour or so, I was convinced there was a pirate ship on the Ultra Trail du Mont Blanc course, and I could see the pirates on it. So hallucinations happen to us. We react to it. A visualization is something that we create. It's a scene in our mind. It's an image in our mind that we create. And I encourage the athletes I coach, and also I do this for myself, to use visualizations in races and also to prepare for races. The most, I think, amazing visualization experience I had in a race was the Marathon des Sables. And this is a week-long race running through the Sahara, up and down sand dunes and across the mountains. It's a really fun race. A couple people here have done it too. You're carrying a rucksack with your food in it for a week, and your sleeping bag and survival gear. Sometimes you're running with lots of people. Sometimes it feels kind of like you're alone in the desert. So on the long stage, it was 80 plus kilometers. The year I raced it, I was really trying to make a move on that stage and do really well. And at one point I found myself in the second place in the group I was in. So I couldn't see the first place person, I just saw tracks. And I couldn't see anything behind me. So I'm kind of alone in the desert. At a moment it's getting really hard. Temperatures are over 50 degrees Celsius in this race, so this can be kind of tough conditions in a race. So alone on the desert, on the flat part in the last hour of the race, I'm feeling weak and I'm feeling tired, but I really need to hold on to this fast pace I was trying to hold in the race. And I needed some help. I could feel a headwind coming. It was a hot headwind. The sun, kind of like the sun now, is coming. The sun was right at me in my eyes, and I couldn't even see the finish line yet. So I created a story. I created a visualization. What I saw in front of me was a group of my closest friends forming a peloton, like in cycling. So they were in front and kind of as a shield here. And I could actually see the faces. I could see the clothes they were wearing. I could see their faces. And I could see them suffering. I visualized them suffering for me. So the heat hit them first. The wind hit them first. They shielded me. I saw my family off to both sides and more friends behind me. So we had a bubble form. And as we ran together, now this isn't a hallucination. I wasn't dreaming this. I was making this scene. I was making a movie in my mind. And they're all helping, and they're hurting. So I start feeling bad. Oh, they're hurting. They're working so hard. I need to work hard to honor what they're sacrificing for me. So they keep pushing. They're looking back at me. Come on, Jeff. You can do this. You got it. Stay with us. So this whole energy gets created. And even though I'm this one person in the desert, you can't see people behind me or in front of me, suddenly it's a group of 100 people running. The energy blew me all the way into the finish line. It really just drug me to the finish line. And I finished with a performance of a lifetime. Nothing in my training or endurance racing background would have predicted the time I ran that stage, and nothing would have predicted how well I did in the overall race. So much of that happened based on what was created in my mind. It was because I had great friends and family that I wanted to honor, and I was lucky to have that. But creating that scene was a huge adrenaline boost. It was a free drug that made a huge difference in my physical stream and took me above what limit I thought I had there. So for me, that visualization, an amazing experience, and I still draw from it today. It's been several years ago, but there are times I still tap into the same one or try to create different visualizations like it. So when I'm coaching athletes, endurance athletes, I encourage them to try to think of scenarios like that they can use on race day, and use especially when things get difficult. You can also use this in training, so your preparation for racing. And I call this mind training. It's easy for us to think of training the body. I do a long run, or I do some body weight exercises. That's training the body. And with the mind, many people think you got it or you don't. You're mentally tough or you're not. But that's not the case. You can train the mind just like you can train the body. And visualizations is a cool way to do it. And I like to think of this like an airline pilot. Flying a big airplane, they may have emergencies to respond to. So there's checklists. Someone has already thought of the emergencies. You lose the left engine. You do this, and this. So when it happens, they calmly work through the checklist. And they also practice that in simulators. So they have the checklist, they go through it over and over in simulators. And endurance athletes can do the same thing. So we take an example, bad weather in a race. In these mountain races, it happens. It can snow in the summer. It can rain. It can rain, then be really hot, then rain again and get really cold. So you can think through that already before the race and think, okay, how am I going to react? it's the middle of the night, it gets very cold, I lost my gloves, for example, then think of the script. How, at your absolute best, would you want to react? And then in the visualization, you walk through that scenario. You see yourself encountering the adversity, and then you see yourself becoming stronger and stronger and getting through it. It's kind of like getting that second wind when you're running. You feel terrible, and suddenly, wow, I recovered, and I feel great, and I finish strong. So make that script in your mind. Work yourself through the script. If you run that thing 5, 6 times, 10 times in your mind leading up to the race, you know what? When the event happens, you're going to go right back to that. That's your checklist. You're going to say, hey, I've been here before. I've been in this adversity before. I know I do this, 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 and I'm going to be strong and I'm going to get through it. So it's a powerful tool. I encourage you to use it. In closing, if you're ever running in the forest and you see thousands of sausages, here's what I want you to do. Stop, quickly look up, and try to see that airplane, because I really want to know what that airplane looks like. I wish you wacky hallucinations and a great set of visualizations that really help you bring your performance to a new level. Thanks so much, guys.